Having an idea is pretty much the easiest thing a person can do. On a good day, I might have half a dozen of them. A game show where contestants eat spaghetti in the dark. A new installment of the Mighty Ducks franchise called D4, Get Pucked. A rapper named Lil Sleepy who sings a song called Melatonin for My Sins. Ideas like mayflies, here and gone without leaving behind so much as a mark on the world. Maybe one of the hardest things a person can do is turn an idea into something else, something real. Without getting overly sentimental, there's something both incredibly charming and life-affirming about stories of people who dare to pursue their dreams. Not in the LinkedIn posting sort of way, where tech CEOs wax robotic about giving up food and sleep to launch an app that facilitates micro-lending to kindergartners who can't afford school lunch. Instead, I'm thinking about the stories of ordinary people inflamed by gnawing passion. Stories of people who chase their ideas beyond the soft, intangible space of the daydream and into the cold, unforgiving world of reality. Stories like the 1999 documentary American Movie, which follows filmmaker Mark Borchardt as he tries to bring one of his visions to life. It's an intensely tender and inspiring film about the act of creation, the fear of failure, and the desire to leave one's mark on the world. And, as you may have guessed, it's also been known to make people cry. I'm your host, Matt Jones, and this is another episode of I'm Not Crying. Who am I here with today?
My name is Tucker Leighty-Phillips.
Tucker Leighty-Phillips. Thank you for joining me in my living room, in the studio.
Oh, I'm in the studio.
Yeah, we're here. Happy to have you. So what's going on with you lately?
I've been dealing with styes in both eyes.
Whoa, styes. Now, do the styes come from anywhere in particular? Is there an establishment to pin them on?
I don't know. I think for legal purposes, I don't want to say that I got it from any restaurant, but
that's actually probably good to cover me too. Yeah,
I have a list that I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, keeping a stye on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're here today to talk about a movie that you said has made you cry, or perhaps does make you cry currently.
Yeah. It made me cry the first time. I did not cry on the rewatch.
Oh, no, cry on the rewatch.
But I think that's a valuable. There's merit in it, I think, that I'm curious to explore.
Okay. And what is the movie we're talking about today?
The movie is Chris Smith and Sarah Price's American Movie from 1999.
Would you buy this movie for $14.95?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. You know,
if I can find 3,000 people like you across this country, man, I'm in business.
Yeah, it's funny that Chris Smith and Sarah Price, when so often I think about it as being Mark and Mike's movie.
Oh yeah.
Even though I know that they didn't make it.
Yeah. It's I think a documentary made about a filmmaker, you kind of tied to the filmmaker you see rather than the one you don't see. So.
Yeah, it does feel like theirs. Which I guess is, props to Sarah and
Chris.
Oh yeah. So I guess for our listeners, do you want to start out by telling us what is American Movie about?
Yeah, it's a film from the end of the 20th century that follows Mark Borchardt, who is a Wisconsin-based filmmaker who is trying to fund his feature-length film. Across the documentary, he's filming a short film that's basically supposed to be like the what's the term I'm looking for? Like it's the thing he's using to raise funds to make.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of follows his like trials and tribulations, his like ability and inability to get people in his orbit like on board to help him create this thing. And it's kind of like a testimony on like craft and art and resources and also very place based. I think it is an incredibly like Wisconsin feeling movie. And I think is something that interests me in it as well, that it feels so Wisconsin.
I agree with you. It feels incredibly Wisconsin. Yeah. To great effect.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do think the Green Bay Packers show up in the movie a lot more than you expect them to.
And as you can hear, the celebration also continues here at Lambeau Field. Guys, it is absolutely nuts here. There you see the final score. Packers 35, Patriots 21.
So you said this movie came out in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So what were you up to in 1999? Do you have a clear memory?
Oh yeah, that was a big year for me. I was 9 years old, and I remember I ran for student class president. Not as in for like my fourth grade class, but for my fourth grade classroom. The 22 kids, and I ran against another student named Bo, and I remember getting Tootsie Roll Pops and attaching little tags to them that said "Don't be a sucker, vote for Tucker," which I thought was a really great campaign approach. And I got battered. In the election. So.
Well, we got to say, for the record, it's a fantastic slogan. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I maybe should have pressed on Heartland issues more, but I feel like
I think you to speak to what's important to a fourth grader's heart, I think is what you win with. But what does getting battered look like in a class of 22? What's our?
If I had to guess, I would have said, well, I know, I will admit I did vote for myself. I think maybe a third party maybe cut into some of my vote, but it was probably a good like 17-5.
Okay, not the worst spread I've ever seen.
No, it was, and again, I think maybe he ran on the issues, and I failed to.
Again, though, incredible slogan, and I've been stuck on the word "incredible" for going on a month now. Yeah. I've been overusing it, but I'm going to employ it probably a lot here.
Yeah, okay, great.
And where were you going to school in 1999?
That was it was an elementary school in Corbin, Kentucky. And the name escapes me at the moment because I bounced around a lot from kindergarten to fifth grade. I was at a different school every year. So some of them have maybe stuck more in my memory than others. And that one, I was only there for about 6 months. And then I transferred to Hunter Hills Elementary in Corbin, Kentucky.
That's good. Then you can run a new campaign there, fresh face.
Yeah.
No one knows your history. And
I think that was kind of what I did. I came in and had a fresh start and really integrated myself into the fourth and fifth grade community there. So,
oh, hell yeah. Yeah. So then if you're 9 years old in 1999, so I'm guessing you probably didn't see American Movie when it came out.
Oh, no.
Okay. What was your cinema radar like in 1999?
Let's see. I was really big into Balto. I was watching and rewatching a lot of Balto. I was very curious about like the scene in Nome, Alaska. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nome is a fascinating place. Yeah.
Have you been?
No. There's an essay in the collection Impossible Owls by, I want to say it's like Brian Phillips, to where he does kind of an on the ground bird's eye view of the dog sledding race that ends in Nome.
Yeah.
And it makes it sound, like edge of the world kind of place. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was, my only kind of insight to it at that point was that movie. So I saw it as a place of where people are overcoming their differences and learning to coexist. And I think Balto played a big part in that.
Oh, yeah. Balto, because he's delivering medicine, right?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
And he's kind of untrusted by other characters in the movie because he's part wolf.
He was an outsider who wasn't like the others.
Balto, wait. Balto!
Until a town needed a miracle.
So there's kind of an identity-based narrative in it, and they make assumptions about like his demeanor because he's part wolf, and it was doing some important cultural work for a kids movie at that time.
I had forgotten about that aspect of the plot.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of the main.
Yeah.
My God! It's not just delivering the medicine.
Oh wow. Okay. This is news to me. I got to revisit
It's the person story. It's the character story.
Okay. And would you say, is Balto the most famous dog in your life?
Personally, I don't know. I think McGruff the crime dog has been kind of a recurring character.
Oh.
He showed up early, and I think he continues to
tough on crime still.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a strange story about the guy who voiced McGruff the crime dog, and I'm talking very strange. Yeah, that really curdles into weird political territory, but I don't recall it.
Yeah, I could see it.
And then there's probably, I'm imagining, Bug.
Oh yeah, Bedbug.
Yeah, Bedbug.
My dog.
Oh yeah, Bedbug for listeners is Tucker's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part beagle, part Jack Russell. We kind of assumed just because of the nature of him.
Yeah.
Uh,
And all bad boy /
Yeah.
good boy.
Oh yeah, he is good and bad.
Yeah.
And he is probably keeping watch at our front window right now for mostly children. He's not a big fan of children. He's constantly kind of like snubbing his nose at them from the window.
The energy, I think, sometimes from kids, it could throw a dog off.
Oh yeah, he's an old soul.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you remember Balto. So then the question is, if American Movie came out in 1999, do you remember when you first saw it?
Yeah, so I watched it for the first time probably about 5 years ago. So I think it was kind of probably middle of 2020 when you're getting to the point where like you're looking for things to do and in the house all day, and I think I went on a documentary kick, and that was one of the first ones I watched.
And did you go, so we're talking like 2020 COVID lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you at in 2020?
I was in Tempe, Arizona. I was in grad school at Arizona State in their fiction program. And yeah, we had moved to all online coursework. It was just me and my partner in the house by ourselves. Which, I think we really made the most of it. I think we enjoyed our time together, and we're like trying a lot of new hobbies and stuff. But it was also like 350 square feet, and it was we were limited in our resources.
That's a tight space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, so I know like with COVID shutdown is really when I hit my like my movie stride. I got into watching kind of an absurd number of movies, I think because I was living in my own studio alone while my partner was teaching across the country. So I had a ton of time to watch movies. So I know that that's where I really got into them. Was it similar?
I think so. I think ours was maybe we got more into movies because we were together rather than because we were apart, because I think we had started dating at the end of 2019, and so I think we had a lot of like kind of young love, puppy love type energy, and we were like everything was exciting, so we were like finding like we were kind of creating games to like choose movies to watch, and we were sharing things with each other. So we were watching a lot of movies together, but it was also like as a shared activity, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so you bonded over doing this stuff together.
Absolutely.
That's actually interesting. Yeah, when you frame it that way. Yeah, because I had like the opposite of, I was watching a lot of movies because I didn't know anyone where I lived, and that was like I would teach online, like be done at 2:30, and think, okay, time to watch.
Oh yeah.
3 movies.
Time to lock in.
Yeah, time to lock in.
So what we were doing a lot of was we had these two kind of buckets, and one had decades in it, so like 1930, 1940 all the way up, and then the other had genres in it. So one of us would pull from one bucket and one of us would pull from the other, and we would be like, okay, like 1980s comedy, and then we would kind of put together a list of contenders and choose something we hadn't seen from that. So I don't remember if American Movie was a result of that or if it was something that we kind of chose extracurricular, but we were watching a lot of movies that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have selected.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Even when you're talking about going as far back as the 1930s. Yeah. Because I imagine there's some people who might take their decade cut off substantially closer to our time. Yeah.
And we watched a couple 30s movies, and I think we're really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I was very skeptical of maybe like early Hollywood or pre-code Hollywood or I mean, not just like American movies. I think we watched some international films from that period too, and I think we were very pleasantly surprised with maybe what our notions were going in.
Anyone stick out from the old era?
Yeah, I think the one we liked the most was M, the Fritz Lang movie.
Haven't seen. Gotta watch it though.
It's good. Peter Lorre. I mean, he's a legend. I mean, I think I have loved everything he's been in, including the Bugs Bunny parodies of him.
They make me laugh.
And it's a good game to like split the agency for picking a movie, because I know sometimes picking the movie that you can both agree on is the struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're early in a relationship, there's like the tendency to like want to show each other the things you love, and I think we did a little of that, but I think we also were really like, oh, I don't want to force them to watch all the things I like, and instead we're like, let's discover things together. And we carried a lot of that energy into the early days of our partnership.
That's a good approach. So then you don't know if American Movie first came from that, but did you watch it together, like your first time?
Yeah, so we did. What I do remember is that I don't think it was a part of that game, because I remember having selected it, and I remember buying it on, oh man, one of the apps that I don't think has caught on as much. I think it was a streaming service that was maybe owned by Walmart.
Oh.
Was it like Vivu or
okay, yeah, like yeah.
It wasn't one of the heavy hitters.
Okay.
And I remember buying it and being like, I'm gonna watch this. Do you want to watch this with me? And I think Rachel was a little skeptical. And like in the first like 5 minutes, like put her book down and was like, okay, yeah, I'm locked into this.
Whoa. Okay.
And I think she thought it was a mockumentary very early.
Yeah.
Just because the characters are kind of big.
In my I had remembered it as a mockumentary, but then watching it this time around, I quickly realized, oh no, it's just a documentary.
Yeah. Which I think has maybe gotten it some criticism over the years.
Yeah.
As like kind of how these people are portrayed as characters. Yeah. Which is like maybe something we'll get into, but I don't know that.
I read some criticism to that effect. Yeah. So you guys watched it together. And so you're telling me you had an emotional response the first time.
Yeah. Oh, it fucked me up.
Oh, yeah.
Can I cuss?
You can cuss. Oh, yeah. I will put the explicit label on this episode.
Okay, good. Then that means I can cuss more. Yeah, I think it really, really messed with me for a couple of reasons. I mean, I think one, because I was like actively like pursuing an arts career, like in an arts degree. So like craft and like the thought of like creation was really heavily on my mind. But also the sort of, like I mentioned, the underlying place-based approach to it, which maybe wasn't, I think that was maybe more the filmmaker's intentions than actually like the character's intentions. Like I don't think Mark intends to be a heavily Wisconsin focused person, but I think the film understands place as an important part of narrative, which is important to my work as well. And then I think there's like class distinctions and tones within it that also resonated with me.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's because he is a guy, right? He's constrained by the resources he has access to.
Yeah, and he, is kind of heavily reliant on a lot of kind of like gifted labor and is like actively seeking funding from family members and
Uncle Bill.
Oh
yeah. So would you say, is it the movie holistically that causes you to cry, or are there particular moments?
Yeah, it's difficult. I definitely think I have this thing a lot that I talk about with Rachel that is there were things that don't make me cry, but then the recounting of those things makes me cry. That like when I'm explaining why I love something or why something resonates with me, that will move me more so than the actual thing itself did. Which is like something that I don't know how to speculate on, but I do think for me, very much so. I think when I think about the movie, I thought it was Mark that moved me the most, but I do think it is ultimately Uncle Bill. Like, I think he's the driving force of the movie for me. And yeah, there are specific parts of the movie that I think really, really have an impact on me.
Can you tell me about, if you're having to describe Uncle Bill, what's his deal?
Yeah, he is the uncle of Mark, the filmmaker, and he's kind of I don't know how you spoiler tag a documentary, but he's at the end of his life, and he's described by his brother at one point in the film that he was in his earlier years was very much like a scholar and was a really smart man, and we know that he was an artist himself. He shares like what might be uh, poems or lyrics to music or something. I know he describes them as like, these are what happened to me. That's what he says, and that's his like genre distinction.
So here's to the joys we have together when we met in June. Let us be the way we were. Sorry, I miss you so much.
But you can tell he's very much kind of like withering away. Like he's actively aging throughout the movie, which is shot maybe over the course of a year or so, and does pass away like at the, I guess, right around the time that the movie finished filming.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, he feels like if Mark is your kind of exuberant, indomitable will dreamer, Uncle Bill is like the antithesis to where he's like, nothing matters, I don't dream anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he kind of does seem like a guy to where if no one came over to get him out of his trailer, he would sit there and just wither.
Yeah, and I think he's also, he's a foil to Mark in a lot of ways, because I think when you watch Mark talk to other people throughout the movie, he's kind of a smooth talker. Like, he sells people on his vision pretty frequently. Like, he does have like a really solid group around him that are working presumably for free or for little money. And there's a question at one of the like casting meetings where someone says, how are you going to fund this film? And his response is like, you're going to be in paradise when this is, playing at the drive-in. Like, he like sells this vision of it, and he continues to do that throughout the movie. But Uncle Bill like is totally impenetrable to any of that. Like, he like has reached a point of almost like nihilism where he's just kind of like, this doesn't matter. I don't, you're just trying to siphon money from me. He's very, very like kind of stone-faced about it.
Yeah, I think his awareness of his nephew as like a salesman, essentially trying to get his money is a really interesting dynamic in the film. And I know you said, so you have, it's not necessarily the experience of it, but it's recounting it that makes you cry. You said maybe you can't even speculate on it, but I'm going to speculate. Do you think like, so for me, when I hear that, I think like, oh, is it that when you start to think about why, then you start to process it, kind of like when you write something, you're processing how you're actually thinking, then that is what, moves you?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're pressed to share why anything is important to you, it kind of dredges up things that might be more implicit or under the surface. And I think, yeah, when you feel compelled to share those things, that means kind of like there is something kind of simmering in you that's wanting to get out. And I think you can't always control how that comes out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the simmering can boil over a little bit, or even to put it in. Well, I guess now I'll have to go to the Baden-Hop-Fletcher lacrimation scale, which I've explained here a little before, so I won't go into the whole song and dance. But if you're having to quantify where you're at on that scale with this movie, where do you go between 1 and 5?
I think when I looked at the sheet, if you can remind me, I remember feeling like I was a 3, but I don't remember the definition of a 3.
Oh, yeah, 3 is the surge point. So that's where you kind of you start to get that full body experience. You start to lose control. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that tracks for me historically too, because I think, going back to 1999, when I was a kid, I had really, really strong visceral emotions that like, I remember that I would like cry in class very frequently, and that like I also had like I had kind of an anger problem, but I don't know that it was anger. It was more just like emotions would kind of just simultaneously burst out of me that might be multiple things, and that it was rooted sometimes in like love and passion and compassion, and sometimes it was rooted in frustration. And I remember having to do a lot of work to kind of like control my emotions better. But I think the place where I feel it coming back out is like in art.
Oh, okay. So as a kid, you had kind of like the big feelings experience.
Oh yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and I think as a kid, you're learning how to regulate or express, and it makes me think about I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this Mister Rogers bit, which not a bit, very sincere, but he has a song called "What Do You Do with the Mad You Feel," where he's like teaching kids how to try and regulate big feelings.
What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite? When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong and nothing you do seems very right.
So you're saying that when you were a kid, it sometimes came out as anger, but it could be stemming from a place of just love or overwhelmed by sentiment.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was like coupled with social anxiety. I wasn't necessarily like an anxious kid. I think I'm a much more anxious adult than was a kid. But I think if I felt like injustice or any sort of sense of nerves, it would kind of it wouldn't trickle out. It would like the levee would break.
Oh, okay, yeah, the levee would break. Yeah. You would surge.
Yeah. And then I would kind of like, if like the teacher kind of confronted me about it, I would be like, okay, sorry, I know I'm bursting. I'm good now. Like it was very like acute and rapid fire, and then would resolve, and I would work through it.
Okay, yeah, and that fits the scale.
Yeah.
There's some people you have your outburst, and then you're like, I can go back now to being the baseline.
Yeah, totally.
I think with that, and then you said this is something that you most experience now when making art.
Maybe no, when like viewing or like not making, not my own art, but I think like watching films or other forms of media that really like I think engage me. I think that's where I feel it the heaviest.
Oh, like the feelings come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can say that I didn't cry watching American movie, but I felt extremely kind of amped to pursue the feeling it gave me.
Yeah. And what was that feeling?
I think the feeling was, how it's a story about creation, like a guy trying to create his art. And I think what's fascinating about Mark Borchardt is that he, like other people describe as, he has this dream to be a great filmmaker and stuff, but he at one point doesn't even frame it that way. He's like, oh, people always tell me this is a dream, but like this is technical. You got to know your film, you got to know your editing, and he's relentless in the creation of something, which I think is a quality I admire, even if, like, you can say he has his faults, but I would say I have, trouble sustaining or finishing things. So when I see someone who's over a period of years returning to a project to finish it, and you don't know if anyone's going to engage with it, it's an awesome thing, the story of creation that way.
Yeah. And I think the other thing about him is like, he is clearly intelligent in his craft. I think like, I know there have been kind of criticisms of the movie as kind of exploiting him as a human and showcasing him as maybe kind of like a huckster or aloof in some way. But I think the movie really just shows a really fully fleshed out person. Like, I think it's very much like warts and all. And I think he showcases his knowledge with craft and with filmmaking. It shows his kind of hyper like articulated approach to filmmaking. Like he's like, this is about the time that like digital tools are coming out and stuff. Like I know like maybe a year later Agnes Varda made The Gleaners and I, which is like about her relationship to the digital camera, and he's still using like a Bolex and like 16 millimeter, and he's like very stern about using those tools, and I think there's something really like exciting about his passion for like the approach he takes to craft.
Yeah, he really knows the ins and outs, and you see like his bookshelf is just like wall to wall screenplays and everything. And I think the way that he I don't know. It's just, I think the other part that we kind of touched on is that he is very constrained in terms of what he has access to, not only in terms of funding, but people. And when he's like reeling in his mom or his son to like film a quick scene for him, it's just, it's the level of passion there to complete something is very just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's one scene where the one of the filmmakers asks the three kids like, "Do you want to make movies when you grow up?" And they all like unanimously say no, they don't. But then one of them is like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like maybe the story of Mark and like Northwestern, the film he's making as a whole, is like people who maybe don't have that personal drive, but are like, well, if I'm in this orbit,
Yeah.
I do feel motivated to support his dream.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. And one guy is kind of like,
oh my God, this is his whole life is making this one film. And it's like, yeah, I can lose 10 weekends to help him do that.
would you say that, like, can you relate to having that level of passion and drive with anything?
Probably. I think to do anything at all, like to live in the world, you kind of have to. It has to be pulling you somewhere. I don't know that I've ever dedicated as much time to a single project as he has, but I also think like one of the big kind of internal conversations I've been having with myself over the last couple of years is like is it practicing craft to work on your art, or can practicing craft also be like working on a relationship or working on like other aspects of your life? Like, can you pull from that later and showcase that as art making? And I think although I've been maybe like actively writing less, I've been doing things that I think will feed writing in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that is craft or not, but that's kind of how I'm maybe making it make sense in my mind.
I might argue that it is, and I think this is something that I think about a lot too. I don't know. I think if you are a writer or someone who creates art, there's this tendency to frame things in your mind. Well, like whatever I'm doing now might be something that I reflect back on and create with. And it makes me think about, there is a scene in an American movie, kind of toward the end, where Mark is at Uncle Bill's trailer, and Mark says, we'll film you sitting outside of a trailer, but we ain't gonna live sitting outside of a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And that really speaks to me in the sense that, like, oh yeah, I know that if I'm making art about my experience, then there's something else to it. I'm not just doing the thing. This is not necessarily my life. My life is something that I am pondering about and then creating into a narrative that works for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the inverse of that is also like the almost commodification or like fetishization of life experience that like I think Mark portrays really well there. That like, I've been at, I don't know, like writing workshops or residencies or something where like something incredible has happened or some big event has occurred and multiple people are like, okay, who's writing about that? And sometimes I maybe get like a sense of reservation in that moment because I'm like, well, I want to digest this first. I'm not jumping right to the act of, like translating this into an art form. I need to sit with the thing that has happened and maybe work through it as a person emotionally before I try to do something with it. And I think that moment is really critical to the movie of like how Mark sees the rest of his life, and also maybe like how much time he has left as a living being versus where Bill is in his life.
I'm assuming he must think about that in terms of where Bill's at. And I actually think there's like, so this actually came up with a poet that we both saw read a couple nights ago, who mentioned the act of writing about a place while you still live there. And she kind of mentioned that some poets will say, can you write about a place when you still live there? And to me, I often have that thought where I think I actually feel a bit incapable of reflecting on things that are current, and it's only, you know, after I leave a place physically that I can look back and start to formulate an idea about how I felt about it.
Yeah, and I talk about that a lot with my relationship to Kentucky. Is like I Kentucky was just kind of like an assumed thing in everyone's life whenever I lived there. And then when I went to school and I started writing more, I realized that in many ways, like Kentucky or Central Appalachia was kind of like a unique identity marker for me. And it was something I could put into my work that was different from what other people were doing. And then I moved back and I couldn't write about it anymore. And it became the assumed thing about everybody again, whereas I thought maybe I would feel solidarity through that. But I think instead, yeah, it became like more complicated by being in the place, which is I think is a good complication. But I wasn't actively writing about it as much as I was when I had left and was maybe like reminiscing on it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I guess there's something about like the immediacy of being in a thing that at least if I'm hearing you correctly, the way it works for me is, yeah, it makes it a bit harder to access in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I need the distance.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm thinking about, obviously with American Movie, is something that I find really interesting about Mark, or that I've been thinking about, is that there are friends of his or relatives in the movie that kind of criticize him from the standpoint of like, I think it's his brother, who he definitely doesn't want to, he doesn't want to be his sterile normie brother. And his brother kind of says like, you know, does Mark think about what he's making, or does he think about who he's making it for? And I think he has all of these influences that he's like profoundly aware of. And it kind of got me thinking about what he wanted his final film, Coven, or some might say Coven, to be. And there's this scene where after Thanksgiving, him and Mike are sitting up like late and they're kind of whispering because they can't be too loud. And Mark tells Mike that he listened to some of his new music and it sounds like kind of a ripoff of other music.
Yeah,
and
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, of Black Sabbath. Yeah. And Mike says,
yeah, but all your ideas come from somewhere else, Mark. You can't make up an idea by yourself.
I don't know. I guess I wondered how Mark thought of that in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I like really want to dive into Mike as a character too. And as a human, I think, because he's really interesting to me. And I do think that one of the things I thought about when rewatching the movie is we hear a lot of the what, like the like, I need to make this movie, I need to make this film, but we don't understand a lot of the driving force behind the film itself. Like we don't really get a lot in the movie about like, what does Northwestern or Coven, what do these mean to Mark as a filmmaker? And like, other than like the act of having made, you know, I think we talk a lot about in, you know, when I'm like teaching like writing, that there is a big difference between like writing and publication, and that like focusing your aims on writing versus focusing your aims on publication are very two different acts. And I am curious about like, what is it? And we get a lot of like his influences and stuff. And I think we understand kind of the knowledge base that Mark has. And this isn't to discount any of that, but I think, we don't understand a lot of like, what is the story he's trying to tell with the stories he is trying to tell.
Yeah, I think it seems almost, and it could be the way because it's edited, but it seems like he has ideas for really cool scenes, like visuals that go together. He's obviously very influenced by horror, but then, yeah, I found myself wondering like, oh, what is the thing he wants to say? What audience does he envision? And I think Mark seems to be a guy who has a very clear idea of who he doesn't want to be in life. Like he doesn't want to be like his family. He doesn't want to be just another somebody.
Yeah.
But I don't know necessarily what it means to be a filmmaker, which is something Mike asks him, or you know, Mark asks Mike, and Mike is like, oh, well, maybe you'll have sex, money, power. And I don't know what actually Mark thinks about that.
Yeah. And you know, part of that might be like, American Movie is a movie that is not funneled necessarily directly from Mark's perspective. It is showcasing him in like a third person perspective. And maybe if he were making a movie about his filmmaking practices, we would get more of that. Like I do think there might have been decisions made by the filmmakers to frame how we see Mark and why we see Mark the way he is. So it's not that I don't think he doesn't have that perspective that he's sharing. It's just maybe the movie didn't show it.
Yeah, and that might be where some of the like criticism comes in of the movie, at least that I've seen, in terms of how they've, because Mark appears as kind of this manic, like highly driven figure who seems to like live in the fantasy space of film rather than in the world sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the movie, if it's making an endorsement of anything, it's not making an endorsement of his films. It's making an endorsement of like him and Mike and Uncle Bill and the group of people. Like it's more a people story than it is a story about the actual art itself.
Yeah. And so then if you're thinking about this movie being something that you had kind of like a heavier emotional response to when you first saw it, where do you think like that emotion derives from for this movie? Because something that's been in my mind more now is like, is there a certain sadness to it, or is it do your tears come from something else?
I think the first time I watched it, I identified with Mark a bit, not totally, but I did identify with him a bit in that like you have such a drive to, and you know what you want to do in the world, and the world is structured in a way that limits your ability to do that. I think because of maybe my class status growing up and like, young adulthood, never saw art as an option for myself. I think it was when I actively made the decision to pursue it and risk, something in order to pursue it. That was when I felt it start to open up for me. But I think maybe there are a lot of people for which there is no risk. They have the ability to pursue it. And I think, so I did identify with Mark in that, like, I have to invest what little resources I have into making this happen. And if it fails, I fail with it. And I think that is something that speaks to me really heavily, at least from Mark's perspective in watching the movie.
I know when I was growing up, I had all the potential in the world. Now I'm back to being Mark, who has a beer in his hand and who's thinking about the great American script and the great American movie. And this time I cannot fail. I won't fail. It's not in me.
And do you remember, was there kind of a moment or a period of transition where you remember saying like, okay, well, like you said, art wasn't something really that's open to you based on growing up. What was that period like prior? And do you remember there being a particular shift to where you thought, okay, this is a possibility, I'll go for it? And what did it look like before the possibility wasn't there?
Yeah, I think, well, I was a really, really voracious reader when I was a kid. Like after I lost my election and had to move to a different district, I got really into accelerated reading at my next school and like won an award for the most AR points in my school. I also like was getting favors from friends by like taking AR tests for them as well. Like, oh yeah. I had a whole like industry I had a side hustle worked out that was like, I was like getting extra stuff at lunch from kids because I would like read Shiloh and then take the test for all of them. And I remember I would like get a few answers wrong intentionally.
Oh yeah. You don't want to come off as too conspicuous.
Yeah. And I don't know that they had maybe the screening resources that they have now, but I just was careful about things. But I remember like in all that reading, at no point did I read a book flap that said like, so-and-so is an author from Kentucky. And I think in my mind, I was like, art is a thing that happens in different places of the world. It's not really a thing that happens here. And, Southeast Kentucky, I didn't really see like a concentration of artists. So I just never saw that model for myself.
Yeah.
And I think, I would do writing in my teens and 20s, but I never saw it as like, I saw it more maybe as like Uncle Bill sees it as like, this is just a thing that is coming out of me rather than something that fits into like a genre distinction or something that's intended to be art.
Oh, sure. And you've mentioned a couple of times the way that place plays a really heavy role in American movie. And you're right. And I think for obviously for Mark and his friends and family, like those class distinctions are very apparent on the screen, especially when they're like location scouting, and he's location scouting in areas that are above a different class. So then can you help me understand what was your sense of place growing up, like Southeastern Kentucky?
Yeah. I think I bounced around a lot, like I said. But you know, I think across my childhood and adulthood lived in, you know, apartments, and I lived in small houses, and I lived in duplexes, and I lived in trailers. And so I think there was always kind of a sense of movement, which I think is kind of a class thing in itself too. You know, I think, you know, I have friends of kind of similar backgrounds, and we've like compared the number of places we've lived. And I think stability is sometimes, you know, it is very much a class marker. But I think I was all over primarily Eastern Kentucky, and was always kind of close to like the Appalachian Trail and lots of like mountainous areas, and a lot of greenery. But also very much like Walmarts and dollar stores, and, you know, kind of the new landscape of that area.
Oh yeah, that's a feature of your first book, I remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those kinds of outlets, or stores.
Yeah, like how the new economy is maybe forming in that area is like, you know, I think a lot of and now I think we're going to see a lot more kind of like data centers and things like that or call centers. I think the county that I grew up in has the affordable healthcare marketplace call center. And I called it once to try to get Medicaid, and my security question was, what high school did I go to? And the guy on the phone was like, responded and was like, we played you in football.
Oh, really?
And and then he added me on Facebook afterwards, and I was like, that's weird, I can't add you on Facebook.
But, so no approval.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was calling for healthcare, and I was giving him some sensitive information. So I think
you don't necessarily want that overlap.
Yeah. But that was a thing that like drove a lot of jobs to the region, and I knew a lot of people that were working there. So I think, you know, there's a lot to admire in the area, but also, you know, there is some economic blight.
Yeah. And then, so you said, kind of like Uncle Bill, you would do things like writing up through your teens and early 20s. And I get the approach of feeling like, I think in some ways someone or something eventually has to spell it out to you that it's a viable path to take, because up until that moment, it's just kind of something that you do.
Yeah.
So then where was the shift for you?
Yeah, I think, well, I took, I went to community college after like a messy breakup. Not messy in that like the two of us had like conflict, but messy in that like I literally had no idea what I was going to do next. So I signed up for late start community college classes, and did a couple of semesters, and then took a creative writing class that was kind of an overview of fiction and poetry and nonfiction. And I found a lot to admire in it. And then I transferred to a 4-year school, and was still like doing like English lit, and was thinking I would like get a job in like communications or like PR or something like that, which ironically I am doing now. Not to say that that was the big shift, but I think
we all arrived there one day.
Oh yeah, it's, you know, it's a viable path forward. But I was like resistant to the creative writing degree because I still had some kind of understanding that like I was here for a job first and foremost, and needed that stability. But I had professors when I was taking elective classes that were kind of showing me like what a graduate degree in creative writing looks like, and like whether or not that was something I would want to consider. And I kind of at the 11th hour decided to go for it and applied for programs and got into one, and that was when it kind of really shifted for me, that I was like chasing publication and writing at like a more kind of serious basis.
That's the way. I'm thinking about, kind of got to give a shout out to the intro to creative writing workshop where you get the fiction, nonfiction poetry. Yeah, because when I went to college, it was I think I kind of went along the lines of, I'm going to do, I think, pre-med, because that sounded good.
Oh yeah.
Quickly realized that was a no. Switched to business because I thought that's probably the next best sounding thing. That was a no. And then had that intro to creative writing, and I thought, okay, This is the one.
Oh yeah. When I first went to school, I declared my major as business management because I was like, both of those are terms associated with money.
Oh yeah.
Which I would love to have.
That's money incarnate, business management.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's yeah, I think I had a similar experience, and I'm thinking about, so the first time I saw American Movie was it was 2012. I'd just come out of a breakup as well, living alone in a studio, and I had a friend who's kind of Mark Borchardt-esque.
Okay.
Where one night he was like, "Can I come over and show you this movie, American Movie?" And I thought, like, I think for him it was this really like palpable energy coming off the movie. Like he'd seen the movie and he was like, "Dude, this is the way to do it. This is the way to go for it." And I think the first time I saw it, I was just kind of like, I was in between. I think I'd just been accepted to graduate school, but I knew I had about 5 months before I made it happen. So I was just in a listless space, kind of doing nothing. And he showed me the movie, and I don't really think I think my reaction was just kind of along the line. It's like, okay, well, back to life now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then upon getting to graduate school, it seemed like it's kind of like that weird, I don't know if you've had a similar experience. You get to the world of academia and everything seems, I don't know, just kind of cool in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is like, I don't want to say it's a vacuum. I don't want to say it's like a thing removed from the rest of the world, but you get there and you're surrounded by artists, and all you're being asked to focus on is your art. And it's a type of experience that you don't really see anywhere else. And it is really eye-opening.
Yeah. And I think I read that the director of American Movie, he met Mark Borchardt because he was in the UW Milwaukee like film program graduate school, and met him there in like the cutting room, like working on his own movie. And it's something I didn't know in going to watch the movie, but now that I do know that, I know that he was in that space where he was able to seriously pursue his art with the support of a program behind him.
Oh, I've read an opposite thing.
Whoa.
I did read that they met at the university, but I think the thing I read was that he was like taking a night class or something.
Oh, the director was.
No, I think he was teaching at the university, and Mark was like either signed up for a night class or was like doing it kind of as a, but I don't know. It's been a while since I was reading about him as extensively, but
that would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know what Mark's kind of level of engagement was with the university.
Yeah, it seemed like in the movie, it's cool that you can go there and like use the resources, like to literally splice film together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what his like access point for that was.
Yeah.
And maybe it's an open thing for the public, or maybe I don't know.
I know you said there was another character that you wanted to dig into, and that being Mike.
Oh, Mike. Sweet Mike.
Yeah, sweet Mike. Yeah.
I just think he is, on my rewatch, was maybe the character that I was more attracted to. And I think he's a character that a lot of people find an interest in because he's like kind of quirky and kind-hearted. But on a rewatch, like seeing how he engages with the filmmaking process and with Mark, it feels kind of like he's found, like he is where he wants to be, and I think there's something very endearing about like we might not get a lot of like interiority of Mike when we're watching the film, but you can tell in his interactions with Mark and like Bill and like the filmmaking process that like he is at peace when he is supporting his friends and when he's with them.
I do get that sense. Yeah. And I kind of also get the sense that there's a number of people involved in film because Mark is such like an exuberant big personality about it that he pulls them into this world, and that people kind of feel at home there.
Yeah, and there's kind of there's like a moment in the movie that stands out to me where Mark is upset about some of the like line reads, and he's like outside kind of griping about it to Mike, and he says,
They're making a mockery out of my words, man. This whole thing is turning into a theatrical mockery. Do you understand that, Mike?
No.
and like like that's not what he's there for. He's not. I don't think he's there because he's like passionate about the subject matter. He's there because he's passionate about his friends and supporting his friends. And there's a very like I don't know how to describe it. I just am very endeared to him as a human being through this movie.
I got to agree. Yeah. Would you say that? I think you're right too, as you describe him. He's there because he loves these people.
Yeah.
And it's bringing me back to something that you said earlier on in the episode about, can craft be spread out to things like relationships in your life? And I'm wondering if that somehow relates to Mike.
Yeah, I think it does. I think, and it's, it's not that he's not an artist himself. I think he made all the music for the film.
Yeah.
So, and there's like an emotional underbelly to his music that I think is, does a lot of the work that him speaking doesn't do. But I do think that, yeah, he is very much a people person, and is like, maybe not in terms of like extroversion or anything like that, but I think he is a person who gets a lot out of nurturing relationships, at least in what we see of him in the movie.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It has me thinking about, there's a really great Mike moment that I loved where he comes over and he's looking real smiley to Mark's house, and Mark is very curious about what has happened in his life that's made him so happy. And then he kind of goes down to the basement with the filmmakers, which seems to be like the confessional space, and admits that he's won $50 on a scratch off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a couple moments where he's won money on a scratch off, and he's like wants to share it with people, but also is like, well, I don't want them to just buy a bunch of booze with it. Like, I want us to have something beautiful with this.
Yeah, he doesn't want to just contribute it to beer. Yeah, but I think at one point he says, well, I've got $20 on me from it. Like, what could we get?
Yeah. And and I remember that because Mark says, well, let's go, that'll get us like 4 pitchers at Jim Mitchell's. And Mike says, I don't want to buy beer. And Mark says, I don't want to buy beer either, but if you're buying it, I'll drink it.
Yep. It's a great dynamic. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I guess Mike is in recovery, as he's like very, very clear about. Like he was really wilding out for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I guess I read to like a year and a half before the movie begins is when he was, doing like a ton of drugs, like mind bending levels of drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, one of the places where I think the movie gets some criticism is like how it frames him as a person versus his drug use, which I've tried to like stray away from making any kind of assumptions about like how that has impacted him cognitively. But
yeah,
I think he is a very tender character throughout the movie.
He's incredibly tender.
And one of my favorite lines that I go back to every year, which is perfect for this time of year for November, is Mark saying the thing he's thankful for on Thanksgiving is Mike coming over and putting a smile on his face by talking his shit. And it cuts to Mike and he's like grinning from ear to ear,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. It's incredible. Yeah. That's how I felt like coming off the movie. And it feels like to me, I know, I guess there are criticisms there, but it feels like a tender movie or a tender portrayal. And I especially see that with Uncle Bill, who like all of his reticence and resistance toward using his money, which he describes having, to me, what is a vast sum of money at one point. But then now when you look back, like, and if you Google William Borchardt, like it's like executive producer on Coven.
Oh yeah.
Or Coven. Like he was a part of this thing that like went way beyond himself. He didn't see the end result, but it seems like he seemed like the lovable curmudgeon in the sense that I wonder if it wasn't somehow, it seemed like a part of him liked being able to be drawn out of himself.
I think, and I don't want to get too much into like psychoanalytics. He did get to see Coven because he is at the premiere at the end. And my understanding with the EP title is that's because he was the funder, like he was a driving funder. But I do think because we do get some inclination that he was like an artist at some point in his life, whether he was actively pursuing it at the end or not. And I do think that even if he has become a little more rough around the edges, that there is a relationship between him and Mark that is rooted in that. That
Yeah.
because he was writing or creating or doing something, he sees a bit of himself in Mark, even if maybe he's at a point where he feels like he has like aged wisdom and Mark has like kind of youthful optimism that might not be, you know, it might not, he might not see it as like something that is like rooted in reality, or, you know, I think they have a difference of opinion there, but I think there is a kinship between the two. And I think, you know, even like the scene where Mark bathes Uncle Bill, you can tell there is like, it is not a relationship rooted in Bill's finances. It is a relationship that is rooted in something other than that. And there is a kind of weird off-kilter sweetness about the two of them together.
Yeah, that they're like the most compelling dynamic to me, because it's like you're seeing, in some ways you're maybe seeing the same guy with decades and decades between them, like the youthful optimist who's like pure energy, and the guy who's like, wait until life grinds you down.
You want your dreams to come true?
My dreams? What dreams are that? Is that?
What's your American dream?
I don't have any dreams anymore.
Yeah. I think there's, you know, I think for Mark, or maybe there's the idea of that if you want to create art and stuff, at least for me, something I think about is, well, I'd hate to go through all of life not having done it. Like, I should do it. I should commit to doing it, you know, because I think I'd probably regret not doing it.
Yeah. And I think, I do think that that's why ultimately, I think Bill, you can tell from the way that he interacts with Mark in a lot of the scenes that like his source of joy at this point is being kind of the like, I don't know, the roadblock between Mark and making his thing. Like he enjoys kind of like holding his finances over his head and kind of teasing him with like, oh, you're tricking me, you're taking my money. And he's very resistant to like Mark selling the vision to him. But I think it's also coming from a place of like knowing that ultimately he is going to support him, and that he wants to have his fun in the process. And, you know, ultimately does, you know, grant him the money to make his feature length.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I feel like he does lean into a little bit the role of like the curmudgeon. He knows. Yeah, they're really great to see together.
Yeah,
I think that feels like one of my my big takeaways. Another thing I think about I was thinking about like the basement is the space where they go to have their little confessionals. That at one point Mark pops down there, I guess, to grab something, and he's chugging a Labatt Blue beer. And they obviously call out to him, and he quickly finishes it and like, oh yeah, I've almost found the thing.
Yep, I remember that.
his process is like his creative process, where he's talking about like, I'm drinking beer, like I'm getting stoned while doing these things.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, and I think the current of like drinking and drugs throughout the movie, of who is consuming them and who isn't, is makes for an interesting dynamic of the film as well.
Yeah.
And even like Uncle Bill, like I think all the time about the scene where he drinks the peppermint schnapps and like he looks so at peace. He kind of looks like David Hyde Pierce in that moment, like Niles from Frasier. Like there's like a kind of distinction to him because he's like in his like fisherman's sweater, and I think he's wearing like nice like khaki pants or something, and has his legs crossed, and like there's like an air about him as he's enjoying his peppermint schnapps.
He's got the peppermint schnapps with Sprite and a good heap of ice.
Oh yeah, two great globs of it. I think is
two
what
great
he
globs.
says. Yeah. I always really, really appreciate that scene, and I think it's maybe the only scene where we actively see him consume alcohol.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he's elevated.
Oh, it gets him going. Yeah, it allows him to achieve this kind of peace on screen.
Yeah.
So then, if you're thinking about this time, I know you said you didn't cry this time around. So is that if you're ranking it on the 1 to 5 Baden-Hop-Fletcher scale, are you going with a 1 or 0 like Stasis?
It was lower, but I don't know that any reading would be accurate, because again, I think for me it's more of like it's an ongoing relationship with the movie. And I think if it was a 3 once, in some way it's always a 3 because you carry that with you. And maybe I just was a little more, when you come in like having rewatched it for something like this, like you have expectations,
Oh yeah.
So I think it's the same way as like when you don't know the plot of a movie, but everyone has told you like the twist is it's wild or it's crazy. You are kind of prejudging the twist. You're like, this has to live up to these expectations that these people have set. So I think I was maybe watching it with a little more of a critical eye.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the sty that I have, but that eye has become just a little more like squinted just by nature of the issue. But I think I maybe was coming in with higher expectations because I was like, this messed me up before. Will it mess me up again?
I do agree. Yeah, it's like I think the imperfect experiment of a podcast like this is that when you know that you're watching something for a particular reason or you're looking out for it, it changes the way that you interact with it, rather than being able to experience something, just purely on your own.
Yeah. It's the same thing as like watching or reading something for a class. Like suddenly a thing that is like a space that you enjoy interacting with has become like a task to complete. And sometimes that can influence the way that you, even like, I think, the way the teacher who assigns it can have an impact. If you don't like that teacher or you love that teacher, you're more or less trusting of the medium.
Sometimes it depends on who's recommending things. So like, for instance, if I recommend a movie to my wife, Jess, there's already a great deal of skepticism there. I think, okay, if something has moved Matt or something is very important to Matt, like, I don't know about this. Yeah.
But also maybe I just tackle it now because it's it's coming back.
Yeah, I think the critical eye changes it. And I think that's one of the things that kind of interests me about the original dynamic between Dick Baden-Hop and Eileen Fletcher when they were like trying to study how people cry, is that's because they had a private practice, like psychotherapy practice. They were able to gather all of this information without people being primed for that expectation of it being used for any greater purpose. Whereas the thing that I'm doing now, or that we're doing now, is we're aware that we're going into it with a critical eye. Like you have to be able to speak about it in some way.
Yeah. And I think for me, the scene that moved me to tears the first time that I think maybe I put too much pressure on is the one you mentioned of Bill sitting outside the trailer at the end of the film.
Oh man.
The thing he recites that I think are the last lines of the movie is, to me, it is, I don't know if you call it a poem or a found poem or things that happened to him, but that has a cadence and a movement to it that is absolutely one of my favorite things in any sort of media that I've ever seen. Like, it's one of my favorite movie scenes.
And this is where, are you thinking about the scene where he's doing the line for the movie, or in his own book?
It's the, let me see, it is, I think I can recite it from memory. It's hello,
come again,
come again,
come again.
Oh, what is it?
Stay a
Is
while.
it God help you, Jesus help you, everybody
Stick
help
around a
you,
while.
everybody make happy,
Stick around
make everybody happy,
as long as you
be
can.
a comedian.
Heaven help you. God help you. Jesus help you. Everybody else help you. Everybody make happy. Make everybody happy. Be a comedian.
I think that's it. I maybe got one or two wrong, but he recites it off the cuff in response to Mark's kind of pushing, like urging him to like, let's go make the next thing, or like, let's keep filming. And I think there's something about like the actual piece itself that he recites, whether I don't know if it's something off the cuff or something he has written and, you know, recited before, but like that being his response and conversation is really moving to me. And like the knowing, I think, coupled with it being like the end of his life, and those are the last, you know, those are the last words we ever get from Bill. That the first time I was surging for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You've got to be surging at that point. Yeah.
I mean, how do you read that scene or that thing he recites? What was that experience like for you?
I mean, in the broadest possible sense, what I can say, like right off the bat, is I think it's a beautiful scene. Like anytime Bill is, I think the first time Bill opens his notebook and is like, "This is a song that I've been thinking about that I made," and then you realize that he's kind of got this just collection of things that he's made throughout his trailer that he feels like sharing sometimes. I don't know. It's really great because I think it's just that spirit of wanting to share something you've created, especially since he's got this nephew who's so adamant about it and who's doing that all the time. I think probably one of the, I don't know if it's the most emotional moment, but something that really resonated with me is that Mark is working kind of like a groundskeeper at a cemetery. And he talks about getting called into the cemetery and someone has shit all over the toilet seat and bathroom wall. And he talks about having this moment of realization, like meta, like, oh, I'm 30 years old and this is what I'm doing. And I think I have that like all the time, like constantly not being able quite to just sit in the moment of how I'm living, but constantly thinking about it from the outside. That makes me constantly aware of the gap of where I'm at versus a place I'd prefer to be. Yeah.
One of my earliest teenage memories was realizing that Miley Cyrus was Hannah Montana at 14 while I was still in school at 14, and having to compare myself to Miley Cyrus, and was just like, what am I doing with my life? You know,
like she's made it.
And you know, she's kept her foot on the gas all the way.
And she did have that leg up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Billy Ray.
And you know, maybe I think also I think she's done a lot on her own merit, but it was also, I don't want to, you know, she is a good artist and I think she's held to that, but I also, she did have a foot in the door that I didn't have at 14.
It's great to have the foot in the door.
Yeah.
Like you realize it can make a huge difference.
I think one of the other things I love when Bill is reciting from his book is again, when I think he's riffing, like he's playing off of his own work, because it makes it so much richer. And one of the lines that always sticks with me is I'll visit your grave every day. Well, not every day, but sometimes if I can ever find it.
Yep. I love that he goes immediately practical. Like he switches from like the poetic ode mode to like, well, actually that could be tough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And me and Rachel have a lot of debates about what he's saying in the one line where he says, and there's multiple ways to hear this, I guess, but when he says, I was wondering, do they smoke and have cigarettes in heaven? Or is he, I don't know, there's like a bit of a stutter in it, so I don't know if that's exactly what he's saying, but it's kind of in that realm. That's a line we talk about a lot.
Oh yeah. No, that's what I think about. I love any question that asks, do they have blank in heaven, to me is like immediate bait for me.
Oh yeah.
Like, do they have Fuddruckers in heaven?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. I think trying to conceive of what that could be like, even thinking about something like Field of Dreams again, like just what is your conception of heaven? Even if you don't believe in it, it's a fun thing to consider.
I wonder, do you feel like Fuddruckers is pure of soul?
I actually, here's what I'll say. I don't ever actually think that their 1 pound burger was 1 pound. So no, that would be an issue for them. Yeah.
You know, what's funny is that makes me think of the, I don't remember the exact context, but Peggy Hill saying, I think it's a child asks if their cat is in heaven. And she says,
well, now I'm not sure where I heard this, but all dogs go to heaven. So I am sure that cats do not.
Yeah, and I could go all day on Peggy Hill. Oh, yeah. She's a really, really, really rich character.
Heaven sent.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Heaven
yeah,
Sent for sure.
Just absolutely impressive. Yeah, and now that as you know, I've been deep in a King of the Hill watch for the first time, so I'm comparing every single thing in life, a lot of other art I encounter, to King of the Hill.
Did you see were there distinctions between American, or did you find through lines between American movie and King of the Hill?
I see Bobby in an American movie. Yeah, kind of an exuberant kid who could probably take a lot of different paths in terms of creation or loving something, who's often mediated by his very conservative dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there. Well, and I think too, there's a bit of a Bobby and Hank have a bit of a Mark and Bill dynamic.
Yeah.
Hank is kind of the grounding figure that, I think Hank is a number of characters in the movie, but
oh yeah,
I think Bobby kind of captures also the best of both Mark and maybe Mike as well.
Yeah, he's got that tender spirit, So if someone you knew was coming to you and asking you for a movie, a recommendation that would make them cry, are you recommending American Movie?
I don't know, because I do think reading it this or watching the movie this time, I reacted a little differently. I think some of the gender politics in the movie are kind of troubled. It's very much like takes a 90s approach to gender. I think some of the women are a little demonized or put down. There's even like a moment where Mark is selling Uncle Bill on a casting choice by like showing like the photos of this woman.
Oh yeah, he says like, what do you think about that?
Yeah,
like her in your movie.
Yeah, and Bill is charmed by it. So I think it is like it's a movie that I don't know would speak to everybody. I think it still speaks to me even with kind of those criticisms, I think. But I don't know that it's a crier this time around. It was definitely a crier the first time around. And I think if you find yourself attached to a character, like I think, again, I love Mark, and I think it is kind of an interesting sense of irony that like he has made a career for himself as a filmmaker on the back of like this film getting really popular. Like I think he's been able to continue to make a lot of work and has like been in a lot of other things. I remember seeing him in Joe Pera Talks with You.
Oh wow,
he plays a character in that, which again is another kind of like place-based like Upper Peninsula show. And but I also think that like there are a lot of driving forces in the movie that, depending on who you attach to, definitely could make you cry.
Yeah. I think one of my takeaways from seeing it this time around is just I don't know, it got me thinking a lot about the entire project to make not even his first feature length, but Coven, like the 36-minute film is, I don't know, it just has me, it has me very appreciative of the idea that people make their weird, messy things, as opposed to, I'm often thinking about things in terms of like AI now, or like what creation is. And I think there's something really excellent about knowing that people are making all kinds of things all the time, and you may not encounter them, but there's something great about knowing that happens.
Yeah. And I think too that like a lot of Mark's filmmaking practices are very much like they couldn't be done by committee, and I think like a lot of AI is kind of like it is almost like a workshop by committee approach. Like it is taking in a lot of media and then creating aggregates of that. So I don't know that like when you watch Mark kind of in his element in the movie, it is incredibly human in a lot of ways. And I also think it is like it's responding to a lot of conditions, and it's also like he has a very, very specific craft approach that like I wish I knew more about filmmaking, that like I could speak more accurately to it. But you can tell, I mean, him using a Bolex in 1999 I think speaks to like he is being very, very choosy about how he makes this movie. And I think there is a lot to be inspired by, especially if you're someone who is making art or looking to get into making more art. Like there is like a kind of aspirational feeling within the movie.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I come away with. I
Yeah.
thought like, oh man, I got to start just making stuff, even if I kind of thought I got to start committing to more bits.
Yeah. Oh,
like
hell
there
yeah.
are bits that I want to commit to just to explore them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know until you've tried them out on a on an unwitting partner
That's what I mean.
doesn't want to be involved in your bit.
Yeah, I think your partners, they're that first audience who can kind of test run the bit. And for me, there's that inverse relationship to where I know that if it's not landing, I think this is a good bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was posting more on Twitter that I would run in and ask Rachel something or say something to her, and she would be like, am I your Twitter soundboard right now? And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely.
I'm workshopping a tweet.
Yeah. And on Friday at the event that I did, there were a couple jokes I made that I mentioned. I was like, I workshopped this and it didn't go over well, but I'm going to push through. And then honestly was proven right. She was proven right. Oh. A couple bombs, and I think that's okay, but
it's good to have a critical sounding board, a partner who will be honest with you. Yeah. And say like, I don't know if this is working the way you think it's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we give that to each other a lot in different ways. For me, it's primarily bits. For her, it's like specific problems that she's trying to work through of like, how do I work through this like friend interaction or this or that? And I should be doing more of that, but instead I'm working on a new like jingle for Red Robin, and I want to try it out on you.
That's the thing. I think, yeah, a lot of fictional proposals for real existing entities. Yeah. And I sometimes think that's as far as I feel like some of my ideas carry now. Like I can sustain an idea for 140 characters. The idea of sustaining one over multiple years to produce an actual product from it is that's really daunting to me.
Yeah. And you're like, the immediacy of, here's my thing, take it or leave it.
check it out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I've got the mustard, but yeah, I would certainly like to have the mustard to produce, to complete something.
Yeah. Which I think is like, a real testament to someone like Mark that, by hook or by crook is like making these things happen. And when they show like the old footage, like I remember like near the end of the movie, they like show some of his like scrapped footage from the film, and like Hilm and Mike and Ken Keene are like, they're kids. They're like literally kids. So he's been working on this movie for so long, and I think there is a real like sense of charm to that.
Yeah. The I guess the artist's obsession project. Yeah. Like, to where you don't know if it's ever going to be finished, I think is always like an object or a story of great fascination. Yeah. All right.
Have we
cut? Take 31.
So is that enough now?
No, listen, Bill.
I ain't gonna do this anymore. That's all for me. Goodbye.
Okay, I'm gonna see what we have to work with. Jesus Christ, man.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I'm Not Crying. If you have any reviews or recommendations for movies that have made you cry, reach out to us over email at imnotcryingpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.